We are the Grumpy Dads. My name is Duncan Casman, also known as PDA Dad UK, and this is
Chris, otherwise known as the Real Grumpy Dad. So we decided to do a podcast. We're working together. Duncan came up with the idea and he sent out a tweet. It was more about collaborations, and we got talking, and we kind of got on like a house on fire. We spat out a few ideas, and this is how this was born. So
it was genuinely one of those situations we started.
Oh, it's crazy.
And we couldn't stop. In fact, we've had about an hour already on just before we even started recording, just because we can't stop ourselves.
We head down a road, and there's so many sidetracks in different directions, and we'll end up talking from PDA, autism, send to fireworks, whales, and space. So it's something a little bit different.
Discussed. We'll find a way to discuss it.
It is, yeah, exactly. So a little bit about the podcast. We have got a lot in store. It's very, very new to us, but we're very, very passionate about making it. We are going to be having guests every week.
We've got some crackers lined up as well.
Oh, we've got some fantastic guests, and the most exciting part about it all is the variation of guests that we've got. Everything from SEND parents to artists to speakers. We're really, really excited. Yeah, exactly. So every walk of life. We really didn't expect them to say, "Oh yes." It was just crazy. We kind of approached them.
It's almost the opposite problem from what we expected, isn't it? It's like,
it really was. This has come around so fast. It was sort of like, oh, should we ask a few people? And thinking, maybe a month or a couple of months down the line, we'll finally have some guests, and they asking the postman outside if he wants to come in and just interview it. Getting desperate. But no, everybody that we've asked has said yes. And we're very, very grateful for that, and hopefully we'll be able to do something special. But most of all, I don't know about you, Duncan, but I'm doing this for the fun as well.
Yeah, I think for me that was the biggest draw. Once we started chatting and got an idea of what, that we both on such similar wavelengths.
Yeah,
it's actually, there's just, we live lives that are intense. When you got special needs kids and you got this is like it's an intense life for a lot of it. And you can get kind of caught up in that. And so obviously, I do my PDA Dad UK thing, and that's very serious and very, but there's this whole other side to life that kind of gets missed. And it's really cool to sort of initially connecting with you and seeing somebody who has that same idea that actually there's a lot to be celebrated and enjoyed as well.
There is. You kind of, you forget. When you're a SEND parent, and I guess it goes for everybody with kids really, because you can fall into that trap even as couples where you almost close your world, and you kind of forget that there's other things out there.
Very isolated.
So you just live day to day to day the same. And so with the guests, we kind of want to not just delve into their experiences and their fortes. We want to bring them all out of their show. We want to discuss everything. We want to discuss just the stories that they've been through, and it doesn't have to be related to, like I said, their field. So we're hoping to have a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, and like I said, hopefully we'll make something special.
Having said that, I mean, we are both parents of SEND kids.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to explain a little bit about your situation and where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm kind of a late starter with the SEND world. I've got a boy who is 7 years old. It's going to be his birthday in September, so he's going to turn 8. But it was my wife initially who did all the legwork. So was doing all the paperwork, taking him to all the appointments, all this sort of stuff. It wasn't until a few years back that the wife was going stir crazy at home. Her world was just collapsing in on itself, and there was no outside. So I said, "I'll let's swap. If you can earn as much as I do, and we can keep our heads above water, then let's do it." We did, and of course, this new world just opened up to me. Very, very scary world. and I was forced into an education. It's a scary journey. I didn't realise how tough some parents have it. I was always oblivious to it. I was very much the breadwinner, so it was kind of very professional world for me. I'd wear a suit and tie, I'd go out in my car, I'd go to meetings, all this sort of stuff. I'd say hello to the boys, I'd play, I'd do different bits, but I was never truly involved in that world.
Yeah.
So it's new for me, but mostly on Twitter, because I joined, I think it was March this year. I've learned more since March than I ever have reading through books, articles, everything else. I've learned so much more from other parents. So, yeah, it's really, really opened my eyes speaking to other people. About yourself, Duncan, your situation, how are you living?
Well, it's not dissimilar in some ways. We had my daughter 10 years ago. She turned 10 back in June. And we went through this whole process of, it was just something that wasn't clicking, obvious anxiety issues and stuff like that there. And it's been a sort of roller coaster ride to find that diagnosis. And we know just what a minefield the diagnosis process is in the
Yeah.
UK. I was in business, go to your meetings, you go and do your thing, you come home in the evening. But my wife was really struggling with it, and turned out that we when we had my son, which was 5 years ago, she was diagnosed as bipolar as well.
Okay.
And she really wasn't coping with the whole pressures of raising my daughter and trying to navigate her way around PDA, which is pathological demand avoidance.
Yeah.
Which is as much fun as it sounds. If you don't know what PDA is, anyone listening, imagine never being able to specifically ask something of someone and know that it's actually going to get done, rather the opposite would be the case. And it's extremely challenging. It can be very funny at times, but it's extremely challenging to live with it. And my poor wife was really struggling. And it was basically, you're going to have to pack this in, and you're going to have to focus and become a carer. So, like yourself, I suddenly found myself thrust into a world that I hadn't really been prepared for. And I think, like yourself, I mean, I run a group on Facebook as well, which is basically a support group for parents of SEND kids, and focused on autism mainly. I've had to learn so much, but it's been really cool because as people ask questions, I think, like yourself, I know you have an inquisitive mind, and you kind of need to know once something's out there, you've got to learn it and rein it in. So the same sort of thing as people asking questions, I wanted to sort of find the answers, and there's so much research that way. But hearing other people's stories, and it all comes together, and you learn so much, and there's so much to share and talk about.
There really is.
Yeah, it's a mad journey. So
it is. I've also noticed. I thought that you had an American accent at first, stupidly. I think that was on.
Normally I get South Africa or New Zealand.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. I think it might be the look. I think it might be that I can see you on a Harley or something. Hell's Angel. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm putting it down to. I mean, that's subconscious, really. So you're based in the UK. How did this come about? I'm assuming you used to live in Australia. When did it happen, and how did it come about?
Oh, it's quite a story. It was back in the early days of Facebook. So back in the days when it wasn't the marketing machine it is now. And there was a Scrabble you could play on it. So we're talking back in 2009 here, 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
And I was studying to become a teacher of all things at the time, so I didn't have lots of money, but I was working in an office that I was being paid for a couple of days' work there all week.
Yeah.
So I could study in the interim time and use it as a study hall. And it was the summer holidays, so we're sort of talking late 2008. And I started playing Scrabble, because I was bored sitting in this office all day, not much to do, and Facebook suddenly opened up and was like, hey. And, as you do, you play these games. There's the old chat bar at the side. And,
yeah.
I got talking to different people, and I got talking to this girl, and she was, really cool, way punching above my weight on any kind of.
Wow.
I mean, this.
Yeah.
And you can see just yeah, and we just got chatting, and she eventually said to me, "I really like you." It was only after a few days, but I'm like, "Oh, that's I'm really flattered." I haven't got any money. You haven't got any money. I was actually driving home that afternoon,
Okay.
and I got this weird phone call. Is this Duncan? Yes, yes, speaking. You entered a competition for, I don't know if you remember the film The Boat That Rocked,
Yeah.
the Richard Curtis film. And I was sort of vaguely around, oh, yeah, I remember that. You won. You've got a trip to England. So I was sort of nearly had a crash. So I came over to the UK and we met up, and it was just one of those sort of, you
And
can't
that's
write
it.
this stuff, I guess.
Well, you didn't go back.
Once we met and we realised this is obviously something that's going to be, it was sort of a decision then of, does she come to Australia? As it happens, my mother and my brother both live here.
Yeah.
So I actually had family that I could engage with.
I see.
Should have been like at the mercy of my friends, and it really would be mercy.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
That's amazing. So literally opposite ends of the world, and
yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. How's it different in this country compared to Australia? Even your day-to-day things.
I was actually not prepared for that. The culture shock actually was quite strong for a while, because you sort of think England, Australia. England's
wet,
not as sunny, much wetter. It doesn't have the weather. But
do you ever see like a spider in the corner and kind of fret like you would in Australia?
I can't cope with spiders. I'm a shocking arachnophobe now, having had that experience. Well, I used to be in a band, and we were on tour and doing a few shows, and we were sleeping in a school classroom over a summer break period. Wow. And I just woke up one morning like hallucinating. I was really, and they were like, "Oh, mate, what's wrong with you? You know, you've been drinking." And they all went off for a breakfast. I don't remember it, but I was truly off my dial. And they took me to the hospital. This is this outback base hospital. Yeah, we found a welt on his foot, and it looks like a spider bite. And they went back and checked my sleeping bag, and sure enough, they found this redback in there. So I've had a healthy respect for spiders ever since, to the point that I can't cope with it. I'm convinced one day they're going to discover a spider with a clown's face, and I'm going to tell everyone I was right.
The spider that bit you, is that a killer, or is it rare?
There's only really one spider that it's not rare. They're known in Australia for biting your ass.
Wow. Okay.
So they hide under toilet seats.
Oh man, why would he? That's so annoying. Your most
they're
vulnerable time, and it hides under there.
No, they're not lethal to adults. They just make you really ill. I mean, if you didn't get it treated and it got infected, and it can affect, and if you've got underlying conditions,
of course,
it's not a great thing.
Have you ever seen any of the other animals, like I don't know, snakes? Because you've got I say you've got. Australia has got some of the most dangerous animals in the world. What's the most dangerous one you've seen?
The brown snake or the red-bellied black snake, they've both been quite close. I actually lived in more outback Australia.
Oh, wow.
For the last 10 years I was there, and you see a lot there. But in Sydney, you get the funnel webs too, and they're the deadly spiders.
Is that the ones the tunnel, and they kind of hang around at the top? Is it?
Yeah. And they've got these vicious fangs, and they don't just bite, they
hang on.
Because in Sydney, especially, a lot of people have got pools in the back garden, and I was living in a place where we had a pool, and I'd been to a Foo Fighters concert with my mate, and we came back and we just thought, oh, it's so hot, we just jumped in the pool, and I came up to the surface, and I was face to face with a funnel web, and they go in the water, they'll float for a bit, and they'll sink, and they cover themselves with air, so they can live under the water for about a week.
Oh my
so
God.
People will go sitting in their pools and get attacked by these things. It's not just that they're deadly, it's that they're kind of bastards with it as well. All these things.
That's crazy. Why would anybody live there? That's nuts.
You know, the animal that kills more people than anything else in Australia is the wombat.
The wombat?
The wombat.
How does that kill?
They're not aggressive, they're not, because they're like solid muscle, and In this thing you were saying, you can see road trains in Australia, and you'll see it. The wombat get hit by one, and it will get hit by all 9 sets of wheels on one side, which really upsets the wombat, which it will express simply by snorting and walking off. But if you're in a car and you hit that, it's like a vertical launching pad.
That is crazy. They're like nature's tank.
Oh, they are. They are so muscly. And apparently what happens is people get really injured because they'll find a hole somewhere. They're like, kids will go digging around or someone will go digging around looking what's in the hole. If it's a wombat hole,
yeah,
they think, oh crap, my hole's caving in. And they'll try and protect their young by bracing themselves. And it's all muscle. So you're suddenly wedged in. Your arm being crushed and you can't get out. The harder you pull out, the harder it bears arms on. And people have died from just having their hands stuck down these holes. And Douglas Adams says it's like this is the third most embarrassing way to die, and Australians don't like talking about it very much.
Oh my god, I couldn't imagine that. That's horrible. I've never heard the wombat. I mean, Australia, known for sharks, snakes. Have you got scorpions?
Yeah, the scorpions.
Scorpions, spiders, but never heard of the wombat being dangerous. But of course, it's Australia, so even your tomatoes are dangerous down there. It's literally everything.
I think it's Australians, and this is you're asking about the difference between here and Australia.
Yeah,
the sort of culture shock of coming over. There's a very different attitude that people have here, and it's sad in some ways. There's a good level of self-evasiveness to the British.
Yeah.
But there's also sometimes almost like we're ashamed to be British with it.
Yes.
In Australia, everyone's very proud. There's
patriotic.
It's un-Australian. And if something's un-Australian, it's a massive insult in Australia.
Oh, right. Okay.
But yeah, for some reason in the UK, people seem a lot almost embarrassed. And I don't think that should be the case. I think we should be proud of, and I'd say that in a multicultural sense.
Yes.
No matter who you are, what race, creed, whatever you are, sexuality, doesn't matter. Be proud of what we've got here because it's actually a beautiful place and there's so much history. Castles that are literally thousands of years old. You've got so much history here.
It is. It's very, very difficult for the British. I mean, I will always tell someone that isn't from the UK, it's a beautiful country. It really is. It is so diverse, multicultural, such a rich history going back, like you said, thousands of years. I think the reason why a few people do have that slight slither of shame is it's got to come in the last few decades. I mean, we kind of know, being in the Sen community, especially with the recent Panorama TV show that came out.
Yeah.
When you think British, you have this bitterness, especially if the people that you collectively we've elected to take care of this country, to take care of our country, do right by all of us, have kind of let so many down.
I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, and while the landmass, I think everybody can agree, it's amazing, it's beautiful, it's the climate as well. You can't complain. We haven't got tornadoes, we haven't got earthquakes. Yeah. So I think there's just a very bitter pill these last few years that people have had to swallow. And people say the British love to complain. To be fair, we've got a lot to complain about. It's very difficult not to complain.
I really do understand. And obviously, having gone through, the
process yourself,
still going through. Well, this is it. We've had to go through it, and I totally get that. And there is you can see where that resentment comes from because it's a constant fight, isn't it? It's not. Nothing's just simple. There's always a clause or just got to keep chipping until you're haggard, worn.
And you've got to rely on these people that you're filling forms out, all the processes that you're sending these off, and the people are doing their job. Because if they don't do their job correctly, all this work that we've done is effectively, it could be filed under the bin. It's very, very tough. Wouldn't it just be wonderful if it'd just be a better world if everybody had the support to fulfill their full potential?
And that kind of solidarity, I think, You get that in Britain, and if you start looking for it, you can see so many ways that it's there. And the Zen community, 4 years ago, the concept of a Zen community is not something that even registered in my sphere of world experience.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I got thrust into it. And, starting this Facebook group and joining Twitter and starting that and doing the YouTube stuff and starting talking to people. And I mean, my Facebook group, we've got nearly 22,000 members now.
Wow.
It's a UK-only group.
Yeah.
And you think, when we hit 20,000, we did this video. It was basically, I just asked everyone to sort of write some comments about, if they've had help from the group, if it's supported or something. Got hundreds of them. But I would say 98% of them there all said, I feel less alone.
How does that make you feel when someone says that from a group you set up?
It makes me feel terrific that this is, something that I've been instrumental in that way. It also makes me really sad. It's sad that people are feeling this isolated, and that there is this amazing community. And I think you get it in all walks of life. You find that a common ground between you.
Yes.
There's that many people that are experiencing this, and then you suddenly find, I'm not alone. There are all these, meeting yourself. I mean, that's just a perfect example. We connected through Twitter because we're both involved in Zen parenting.
The Zen community, it's like a glue. I've never seen something so, because we're obviously all passionate about it, and it's almost an adhesive to get people together. It's almost like super glue. To have that as your starting point to get people to talk to each other. And obviously we go through very, very similar things on a lot of cases. It's amazing. I mean, that you've got obviously sports, football clubs, fans, singers, all these sort of people who can connect over the sort of things. But the Zen community, when it comes to your kids, because obviously you're passionate about your kids in the first place, it's incredible. Really is the community. I think it's a case of that we're passionate when we have to fight on a daily basis, and sometimes when it's passionate, it does boil over. And when you get someone that doesn't exactly know what you go through, you can't put it into words either. You can't explain to someone how strongly you feel about something.
It's that thing of you can't understand what it's like in being part of the Zen community in whatever way you are, whether you are actually autistic yourself, whether you're parenting an autistic, whether you're supporting people with extra needs and disabilities or whatever the case may be. You can't understand it. For one better way, you hear people sort of talk about the Vietnam experience and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like that. You get into this Zen community, and that, like you say, that adhesive. The thing that's binding everyone together is that, you get it.
Yes, yeah.
You get it, and I can talk to you, and you get it, and I get it, and you can't get that without somebody who's lived it.
It does make us very similar though. What I've noticed is that it's not just our kids, but we have very, very similar interests as well. A lot of the things that we talk about, we seem to have a similar opinion, and I don't know whether that's to do with the Zen kids of where we've almost our kids come along and then suddenly we're almost moulded into not the same person but very, very similar people because of our kids coming along. But I found that we've got very, very strong similarities.
I agree. I think there are also things that we do to cope. Most parents and people I connected with have a really dark sense of humour.
Yes.
Because they've learned, I think, the things that we use to cope that aren't self-destructive.
Yeah.
there's these things that we do to decompress and regenerate and keep ourselves going. Those pockets of me time, if you like. But they develop very similar coping mechanisms. It seems to me that this dark sense of humour,
I do have to stifle.
It's a wonderful thing as well.
It is.
Yeah. We started this off, talking to each other about the fact that we wanted that sort of light-hearted feel because there is so much good. And these are the things that once you get into this sort of community spirit or you find your place or your tribe, that's what I've used a lot, it suddenly becomes fun. And yes, there's still hurdles, and yes, there's still the weight of the world sitting on your shoulders as you're trying to push this up and get diagnosis and try and get it.
Yeah.
But there's so much fun to be had as well, and I love that.
That's what I want this podcast to be about. Is drawing it out and reminding people that there is a lighter side, even if they forgot. I want to draw it out because I think it'll be a laugh. I mean, I might as well admit it now. I mean, selfishly, I like laughing. So, and I like laughing. I like belly laughing. Just trying to remind people that they've got that other side, and that even though, like you said, the world is very, very heavy on their shoulders, if we can get them to forget it for even a brief moment and to even crack a smile, I think we've done our job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening. We're going to wrap it up there, and we'd love to hear your opinions. If there's anything you'd like us to discuss or you want us to talk about, or if there's any points we've made that you've got something to say about, we'd love to hear it. Pop it in the comments. Please like this. Please hit subscribe and ring that little bell so when we get the new videos. Like we said before, we've got a stack of interviews coming up with different people at all different walks of life. So do stay tuned and enjoy. See you next time.